Yeah. And then Sarah Longwell, who played a big role in like elevating this discourse, the Hasan is the most significant problem that the Democrats are facing discourse, is now going, yeah, let's retreat. Let's retreat. Because Sarah started this nonsense, and now that she's been royally embarrassed by the situation she created, she's trying to cover it. You have a lot of supporters defending you in the comments, both on their side and YouTube. Yeah, I think there's like two different types of people right now that are out there going, this is, bullshit. I'm a fan of Hasan. You guys are out there correcting the record, which is fantastic. It's wonderful. There's people who have people who are fans of mine that know the context and are offering the context of a lot of these quotes. There's people who are fans of mine that hear the quotes and they're like, I don't really know what this is about, but like I know what Hasan is about. I'm tangentially aware of who he is, and I like him. So you guys are bullshit. And then there are other people who don't know who the fuck I am, but are hearing my name over and over again from people that are saying like, I'm dangerous. But then they look at it and they're like, well, he's anti-Israel, and it seems like you guys are pro-Israel. So I think I'm going to actually lean on his side and on his, lean towards what he's saying instead, because again, it's a 90-10 issue, right? And that's where we're at. It is funny to see like how deranged my haters get, regardless of how professional they are. I didn't expect a person that is like a prominent neocon of the past who operates like a serious media outlet, right? Like it's an independent one, but it's like supposed to be a serious media outlet, to engage in the same like Ethan Klein, Sex Pestiny style attitudes. I don't know why people that hate me don't have like a normal amount of hate. I don't understand it. I don't get it. I don't know why they just can't have like a normal disagreement or something. If you see a centrist liberal account tweeting about Hasan, check their profile, see how many times they mentioned him in the past 2 weeks. This is not normal. Yeah. It's abnormal. It's not normal at all. It's very strange. And I think it's probably paid. Yeah. Magdi Jacob, Ethan Wolf, like these are people who like they work with centrists, right? They work with like centrist candidates. They want to do their very best to like smear the left flank of the party, and they think I'm like a reliable way to start that conversation. And yeah, that's it. Yeah. Did you see this? Zohran Mamdani praising Jesus, Donald Trump praising Allah. Easter 2026. Happy Easter, New York. Today, millions of New Yorkers celebrate the resurrection of Jesus Christ and the victory of hope over despair and faith over fear. Now, as a Muslim, for those of you who don't know, Muslims also recognize Jesus Christ. But the only difference is they don't recognize the resurrection. So Zoran is recognizing the resurrection of Jesus Christ here, which is he's a heretic. Okay? He's a heretic. However, Donald Trump, on the other hand, is saying praise be to Allah, while simultaneously saying that he's going to do on Iran. Obviously, we're going to be talking about that. It turns out Zoran wasn't doing taqiyya for the 12 imams. He's not a Shia 12er any longer. He's actually doing taqiyya for Christianity. It turns out it was actually a Uno reversal. Many of you didn't realize that it was actually an Uno reversal. The real moment was supposed to be the real ambitions from Zoran was supposed to teach the Muslims that Jesus Christ, which Muslims also believe is a prophet, right? Was resurrected, which Muslims don't believe, right? I don't think Muslims don't believe in Jesus Christ's resurrection, and they don't believe that they recognize Jesus Christ as a prophet. They respect Jesus Christ. They defend Jesus Christ as a prophet. However, they don't believe that Jesus Christ was like the Son of God or the manifestation of God. They don't believe that. And now that Zoran is you're a shit Muslim, suck my dick. But now that Zoran is saying that the resurrection took place, he's actually doing taqiyya for Christianity, it seems, and not for Islam. We do believe Jesus' resurrection. Do we? I thought that it was that Jesus was a real prophet, but like he didn't actually. No, he didn't get resurrected. He's not like the Son of God, right? He's just a prophet. right? He's not. That's like the big difference. Even though Muslims obviously do respect Jesus Christ, and perhaps more than a lot of Christians do, ironically enough, but no, you do not, you bad Muslim. I mean, I am not a good Muslim at all. I'm a Muslim in name only. Let's be real, okay? I'm a mino. I'm culturally, I was raised in this environment, but it's not necessarily something that I fully abide by. I'm culturally Muslim, as I like to say, and not necessarily a practicer of the faith. He is waiting in heaven. He was saved and he never died. Okay. You right, Jesus, aka Esau, is a prophet, not son of God. Yeah, I know that one for sure. Anyway, why are we talking about this? Oh, because the person that is a real and committed believer in Islam now apparently is not your boy HasanAbi Piker, but actually Donald Trump, even though he's also committed to doing. Obviously, we'll be getting into that in a second. There's of course the current meta of consistently talking about me on Meet the Press and all the other outlets so that they can continue creating and manufacturing outrage, manufacturing drama around like irrelevant things and try to tie up left flank candidates or left adjacent candidates, left sympathetic candidates like Ro Khanna with these ridiculous things where it's like, oh, well, why are you hanging out with this guy? The hope is that they don't defend me and they get like a W off of that to because in their minds they think this will. It's very stupid. It doesn't make any sense. It has nothing to do. Like it literally has nothing to do with my success has nothing to do with the politicians that I'm like standing alongside. It's just very stupid. And after these last 3 weeks of unlimited Hasan derangement syndrome shit, the very same people that represent these centrist forces are seemingly retreating. So here it is. Jill Filipovich says, my hot take on Democrats and Hasan is that the vast majority of voters do not give a shit, and the Democrats should spend way more time talking about them, about something that is not Hasan Piker. I actually do agree with this take. I didn't invite this media cycle. They did for some weird reason. And it is very strange that like all these outlets that have written about me in the past, quite literally saying stuff like, oh, this guy's the Joe Rogan of the left. He's the way that the Democrats are going to reach out to the youth, are now also leaning into the smears as well, which I find a little bit discouraging. You guys are fake friends, okay? You're fake friends, NBC. Like, think about it. NBC is like writing articles being like, this is the guy that's going to reach out to the youth. He's the Joe Rogan of the left. And then they turn around and they're like, actually, he's a dangerous anti-Semite, according to the ADL. Like, how'd that happen? Yeah. And then Sarah Longwell, who played a big role in like elevating this discourse, the Hasan is the most significant problem that the Democrats are facing discourse, is now going, yeah, let's retreat. Because Sarah started this nonsense, and now that she's been royally embarrassed by the situation she created, she's trying to cover it up. I did not start it. I'm not embarrassed. I'm not trying to cover it up. I'm right. But to combat the amount of mischaracterized insanity you good folks are pumping into the world would eat up my whole weekend. I'm sure we'll keep talking about it as time goes on. It's not a topic that's going away. Yeah, it's pretty funny that they went from discount Hillary Clinton. Yeah, they went from like everything that we have to talk about. The most significant issue right now is Trump is like inflicting maximum damage on Iran, and Iran is retaliating and causing American assets to light on fire, putting American troops in harm's way. Trump is gearing up for a $1.5 trillion military budget on the one hand, openly saying that like we can't feed our children, we can't pay for daycare because we have to pay for wars, Israel's war specifically. The people have spent, these guys, these right-wing Democrats have spent the last 3 weeks talking about this shit, and it didn't work, right? It didn't put a dent. It didn't actually do anything. It didn't have a significant impact at all. It's just people that are hysterical talking to other hysterical people about this, and those people already are like terrified and think that anyone who is understandably disturbed by the actions of Israel is a rapacious Jew hater, right? Like that's their attitude regardless. But now that they didn't have the impact at all, And as a matter of fact, had the reverse impact that they were trying to get out of this situation, which is it basically just highlighted me to a lot of people who don't know who I am, to a lot of Democrat boomers, in my opinion. And instead of looking at all of those comments and going, wow, this guy's a real danger to the American, this guy's a real danger to America. I think a lot of like independent and Dem boomers that watch this stuff go, yeah, we've heard this. We've heard this about everyone that speaks out against Israel. And it's ridiculous. I think that's what it is. I think a lot of people are aware that this is how a lot of people reflect on this kind of manufactured outrage. Yeah, I saw this. The young Bernie Warren. Yeah, this is the retreat. The retreat is here. A lot of these like centrist accounts and right-wing Democrats who are Israel first. Let's be real. They're Israel first Democrats. They are out there. They represent like no constituency whatsoever, as we know. But they also, while they represent no constituency whatsoever, they represent like 99% of the discourse on Twitter. And therefore, given that they have connections or reflect on the gripes that influential groups have, they do get a little bit of mileage in the media, right? Third way is irrelevant. They don't have a real constituency. And their worldview has been destroyed, thoroughly dismantled, right? Their attitude of lean to the right to win elections has given us 2 defeats against Donald Trump. First with Hillary Clinton and then with Kamala Harris, right? We know that already. And it's not that just we know that on the left flank, right? We know that on the left flank, of course. But the liberal wine moms that made up the Fedayeen constituency, the most loyal, diehard constituency of the Democratic Party, the ones that are most susceptible to the electability arguments, that actually hated Bernie Sanders initially, have come to that conclusion that Bernie was right. They've come to that conclusion that Bernie Sanders and the movement that Bernie Sanders represented was correct, and that they were wrong. And now they're infinitely more open-minded to populist leftist candidates and no longer believe in the centrist argument that we must do centrism to win elections. We have to vote for the most centrist candidate, right? Like that theory is gone. It's destroyed. So what a lot of these people did was try to attack a more vulgar voice, right? They try to hit the civility arguments because I am vulgar, right? I'm not a civil person. I'm a vulgar person. Even if my cause is moral, our cause is moral, the way I communicate myself on these issues sometimes is very impassioned, very, very aggressive, right? And not civil at all. But I think a lot of people would rather have a real fighter. I think a lot of people would rather have someone who's vulgar but moral than someone who's civil but immoral. Right? Hey, there are YouTube videos about how you were arrested in Cuba. Is there any truth to it? I'm a new Twitch follower. If it's false, what is the reason to make up such a lie? It is. People lie about everything that I do. That's a lie. I did not get arrested in Cuba. I didn't get arrested in China either. So like I was saying, they understand that this is not working for them. So they did their first salvo. They did their opening salvo. It didn't work. It kind of backfired a little bit. It just boosted my profile for the most part. And now they're just retreating, because you cover me. If they go out there and they cover me in this like aggressive way, and it causes people to actually pay attention to what I have to say, and they make up their own mind about what I actually represent, right? All of a sudden, people are going to realize that this is all a lie, right? All of a sudden, people realize, wait a minute, I actually do agree with what the fuck Hasan is saying. The difference, on the other hand, however, is that if we pay attention to what they've been saying, we find out that there is a metric ton of awfulness there, right? With Sarah Longwell specifically, I mean, I didn't know she had petitioned or lobbied to make drunk driving legal, for example, which, we can find consensus on that, right? I mean, I'm not antagonistic to that, okay? Or that she played a formative role in Kamala Harris campaigning alongside Liz Cheney. Like that was a spectacular failure for the Kamala Harris campaign. And now we know who was responsible for it, right? Or at least to some degree responsible for it. So, you know, their advocacy and their past is infinitely worse than someone like mine, you know? All they got is he's vulgar. And Alonzo Germendi says, honestly, the anti-Hasan campaign is only exposing more normies to Hasan the Hun. Gone are the days when he's anti-Israel was received as bad by the public. Israel has made sure of it, and they encounter his anti-Zionism or are drawn to it, Streisand affecting him. Exactly. Yeah, that's it. You can keep crying about people being tankies or whatever all day, every day. Please watch the new Meat Canyon video, bro. Dog, you're in this community for long enough. I think there's a lot of other stuff that we got to watch before we watch the Meat Canyon video on this day, right? Like, please lock in. I mean, there will be a time and place. Hopefully, if I get through all of these, if I get through all of the stuff that I want to talk about, like, we'll get to it. You know, I know, I got it. He made a Kaya Shock joke. Like, it's gonna destroy me. It's gonna hurt my feelings, and then there will be a million TikTok videos about how like Meat Canyon calls out Hasan. Hasan killed himself after watching Meat Canyon video. Like, you'll get all of that, right? You'll get all of that out of your system. I promise. What was the adult drama you mentioned? The adult drama I was mentioning is this. What I'm talking about right now is this. Like, this is the adult drama, right? The Meat Canyon thing is not even drama at all. So it's just a way for people to filter another like 7,000 YouTube videos being like Hasan is 1,000,000% done, right? Yeah, I like Meat Canyon. I'm pretty sure Meat Canyon is a sympathetic voice. Who gives a fuck? You can't be so serious about memes and shit. You know, this is the most like endlessly memed thing of all time, and I've personally made jokes about it as well. And it's very funny when I make jokes about it as well, and then people get really offended. People are like, wait a minute, you can't joke about that. It's serious. Like, you're a bad guy. You actually did do it. Like, you actually did do it. Why are you joking about it? You fucking bad guy. And it's like, guys, I think you kind of busted your nut by behaving in a totally insane manner. You know, you convinced the people who were, you know, maybe in the margins and were willing to be convinced that I was a bad person. But most people are just going to look at this and be like, yeah, haha, it's funny, myself included. Can you shock Kaya right now? There you go. In any case, the other side of the story is now they're moving into retreat. The same forces that elevated this to the top of the discourse, right? Like elevated this to an issue that had to be discussed on fucking Meet the Press. Like, I don't think this is important at all. I don't think this is serious. And I'm not saying that in a way that's like, I'm not saying this in a self-interested way because I'm like fearful that like people are coming after me. I don't give a shit. People have been coming after me for years on these issues, right? With those exact same choice quotes out of context. It didn't do anything to me for the past fucking 3 years when the overwhelming majorities were pro-Israel and they were not pro-Palestine. Now it's a fucking 90-10 issue. So whenever you elevate this problem, whenever you elevate my status as like an anti-Zionist and you smear me as an anti-Semite, it's not going to work. It's not going to cause people to second guess what I'm saying. It's actually going to introduce me to a lot of people that go, well, I kind of agree with this anti-Israel stuff, you know? Some streamers dedicated the last two strings to make a list of commentators who didn't support Kamala Harris hard enough law because they want to tell Tim Miller as if he's the kingmaker. Yeah. So now they're retreating. Look, the dumbest thing about all this is that I didn't and don't care about Piker. Piker never comes up in focus groups with voters as someone they're following the way a Rogan or Tucker or Candace does. I don't think he's singularly making an impact on politics in any way commensurate with the attention he's getting, but I care about Tim. I agree with Tim Miller's original point that using Piker as a litmus test is dumb. Calling up John Ossoff to ask what he thinks about Piker is dumb. It's an unnecessary distraction. But I felt like Tim's discussion of Piker was too dismissive of some of Piker's more toxic positions. And that was the part I wanted to react to. There's nothing I can do about the fact that the internet distortion field has overtaken the whole thing. This is literally using 300 words to say, yeah, okay, it didn't work. Okay, back to the fucking drawing board, right? It didn't work. Back to the fucking drawing board. It sucks. Yeah, it sucked for us, right? Yeah, she was losing her fucking mind. We watched the video. She was genuinely behaving in a hysterical way. I don't think I have this kingmaker status. I've never said that I have this kingmaker status. I've never implied that I have this kingmaker status. These guys think that. As a matter of fact, for the past 2 months now, or the past month-long discourse cycle, what have I always said? Consistently. I've consistently said, I'm not a kingmaker. You're just using me as a entry point into a battle that you want to have, because I'm just a megaphone. I'm a megaphone for the resentment that a lot of people in the base of the Democratic Party feel, right? I'm just a platform. I've never shied away from saying that. I've always openly admitted, like, we have some impact in this community. We're large enough. We're all over the place. And there are a lot of people in this community that are very interested in politics, and obviously are tuning in, day out, and they have a lot of impact. We can have outsized impact on certain issues because we have the door knockers and the phone bankers, right? However, there's never been a moment where I'm like, you come on my show and you're gonna fucking win the race. Like, that's not a guarantee at all, right? What? Hey, didn't appreciate the timeout. Just a long-time listener and was just trying to be one of the gargoyles dropping info that just hit the web. What's the info? Let me guess. You probably got timed out by Fossabot because you came in and you were like, oh, dude, Meat Canyon made a video, right? We're not talking about that right now. We'll talk about it later. Is it the whataboutism that puts people off? Like, could you make your points without making the majority U.S. comparison to give them fuel to ignore your points? What? It doesn't. Does it turn people off? Do you get turned off? Or are you, or do you still have that, like, American exceptionalism in your mind that causes you to react the way that you're doing currently when I bring up my country that I pay fucking tax dollars to and what they do with those tax dollars? They don't use it on you. They don't use it on me. They don't use it on our fucking roads. YouTuber commenter replied to me that they had pre-ordered Sarah Shortbat book and canceled it after seeing the video law. Like, that's what it is. It's not whataboutism. I'm an American citizen. I'm talking about, like, what my tax dollars are going to. I don't want it to go to developing weapons that Israel uses to blow up schools, developing weapons that America uses to blow up schools in Iran. I want that shit to build schools here in the United States of America. Okay, that's it. That's it. I don't personally have a problem with it. I'm talking about the general public, that it might put them off and undermine your points and make people listen. Okay, well, you don't have to be a fucking backseat campaign manager for a person who's not even running on a campaign, okay? I'm a communicator. This is my job. And considering how much people's attitudes have shifted in even the last 2 years on a key issue like Israel and Palestine, I think I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing, okay? Like, no disrespect, chatter. You're treating me like you're my campaign manager and I'm fucking running for president. Like, it's crazy. It's an attitude that a lot of Democrats have. They think that they are campaign consultants. They treat everything like that, and I hate it. Democrats in the primaries will never vote for the guy they think is the best, but will vote for the guy they think will win. And their electability metrics are directly taught to them, are directly communicated to them by these exact same groups that have been fucking yelling. You know? Part of taking criticism well is handling bad criticism with grace, big bro. I mean, what do you want me to say, man? I'm not running for president, okay? And I think I've done a decent job, a lot better of a job than these guys have, these like groups have, right? As far as communicating on an issue that was a 2080 issue in favor of Israel that has turned into a 1090 issue that is in favor of Palestinians over the course of the past 2 years. If I was constantly aware of the bad faith critiques and leaned into the way that like centrists might not take my message well at a time when they're also still engaging in bad faith smear campaigns that are failing, I would never get across my point at all. I would never get a word in edgewise. This is some of the things that am critical of with even Zohran Mamdani, like too conciliatory. That's it. What are we doing? We're doing like a defensive tone policing at a time when like the message is penetrating. Hello, Hasan. Today's my 45th birthday and I feel old as fuck. Do not reach this age. Things start to break and your cynicism grows exponentially. However, I think I've been a sub for 8 years. Cheers. What's up, Lib Bizzle? Yeah. They can't explain Plattner's success. Dems ignore him like the plague. Yeah. No, for sure. For sure. I talked about that as well. Anyway, you know, this person then turned around in their retreat. These are two like prominent centrist accounts that have very limited impact on Twitter, but whatever. All the Hasan stuff is downstream of the larger issue that Democrats are captured by staffers and activists that are not only ideologically out of step with the mainstream, but also preoccupied with what is essentially internet stan wars. They're trying to turn this into like, oh, it's actually the Bernie and Warrenite left flank staffers that have kept this issue going, and not fucking dickheads like this. Honestly, can't be overstated how much this is true. The staffer activist class is basically all made up of well-off, hyper-online Bernie Warrenites whose priorities are just completely out of touch with the average worker, even the average Dem base voter, says Centrism fan account. Turns out Centrism fan account, we looked into it, is not a fan of centrism, is just a fan of MAGA, ironically enough. Very mask off. Yeah. Austerity's theft responds to this and goes, the young Bernie Warren lefty internet pilled staffers that keep making Hasan a trending topic. Andrew Cuomo, Jonathan Greenblatt, Mallory McMorrow, Brad Schneider, Joe Cowan, Jake Tapper, Josh Krauscher, Matt Bennett, Neera Tanden, Shannon Watts. I love the idea that having Jay Insider pump out a dozen articles per week of Hasan derangement and third way sending litmus test questionnaires to senators demanding they disavow him is actually being driven by lefty staffers doing too online stan culture. Also, that Gray B guy is literally the husband of Neera's weird ass German postdoc internet reply girl. And the other dude used to go by People for Chelsea Clinton. So, yeah, that's it has nothing to do with like you know, Bernie Warrenite staffers or anything like that. But I do appreciate how much this movement has turned into something so stupid for the centrists that they have to turn around and be like, oh, we didn't want this to happen, actually. Why is it happening? He's just irrelevant. Stop paying attention to him. The reason why they're saying that is because it fucking backfired. Okay? It backfired. It didn't work. They chose a 90-10 issue. They chose a 90-10 issue and do it in this like very cynical way that most Americans at this point are totally aware of. They don't like cancel culture anyway, and they certainly hate how arrogant Israel defenders have been, especially considering that they see this violence and then they might have an opinion on this violence that they're seeing that Israel has committed, right, over the last 2.5 years. And all they hear from Democrats and Republicans and people who are just like Israel first is this idea that if you dare speak out about this, you need to get fired. You need to lose your job. You need to be outcasted, like turned into a pariah in polite society. And they look at that and they go, what the fuck you? You know, it only breeds more resentment. It has backfired spectacularly, and it will continue to backfire, and it will continue to grow the anti-Israel movement in this country, which is a good thing in general. It's good. It's good to be anti-Israel. Israel's done a whole litany of war crimes. Israel's done a genocide. It operates a fucking apartheid with our political cover and our unlimited tax dollars. It's fucking ridiculous, you know? So yeah. There's nothing I can do about the fact that the internet distortion field, blah, blah, blah. That's just part of what happens doing this work. The only thing I can do is keep saying what I believe and what I hear voters saying they believe. But politicians can reach voters who are angry about the Iran war and even about America's relationship to Israel without going on the stream of a guy who said America deserved 9/11. But it's also no doubt true that he's being elevated by the whole conversation, and the right answer to questions about him should probably be Piker who? Because that's what most voters would say if you ask them. Yeah, screaming, crying, pissing my pants for 45 minutes straight about a topic. I don't even care about this topic at all. Honestly, like, who cares? Not me. That's for sure. You know? Yeah, I'm vulgar. I'm a vulgar Twitch streamer. You worked with actual war criminals, right? Man, you guys are so high on your own supply. Voters don't know who Hasan Piker is. Try coming back down to earth. Then why have you people been spending the last 2 weeks crashing out over him? You started this. Exactly. Yeah, that's it. And they're trying to do the Bernie method to a Twitch streamer instead of Bernie Sanders now because they know they can't do it to Bernie Sanders. This is an admission of defeat. This is an admission of retreat, okay? You said Democrats are focused on Piker because he's making their life harder. The only reason Dems are talking about him is because a centrist think tank is campaigning against him as a part of his $30 to $50 million effort to crush the left. That's exactly what's going on, right? Kind of funny that this worked less than the Nicki Minaj beef. Yeah, because they don't have a real constituency. All they can do is hit this from an angle. Why are you even entertaining this shit, dog? Because it's on Pod Save America. It's on Meet the Fucking Press, chatters, okay? And it's probably not going to go away either. There's going to be a press gaggle at the campaign rally that I do alongside Abdul El-Sayed. They're going to keep trying to breathe fire back into this fucking argument. And that's what it is. It's unfortunately one of the most idiotic storylines of all time. And it actually ends up giving me more exposure. It's breach containment, but ironically enough, it's not harming me in any significant way, and it's actually helping me. It's elevating our platform and hopefully elevating the platform of the politicians that I'm aligned with, the politicians that I do want to get positive media coverage for. So that's it. I want to hit back on this, and I think it's in our benefit not to actually let this go. These people need to be exposed to Republican plans who have infiltrated the Democratic Party like a fucking virus. I don't even care if they vote for the Democrats at the end of the day. If they just like suck it up, if they suck it up, then that's all that matters, okay? Who cares? I want racists to vote for my candidates too, you know what I mean? I want every racist person and every anti-racist person to vote for Abdul El-Sayed. The point is, we don't win those voters by becoming racist. We win those voters by convincing them that we present a much better alternative, a much better policy agenda for them, that we will be able to we will be able to fix their material issues. Okay? That's the whole point. I've never been like, oh, dude, what the fuck? You have to disavow racist people that vote for you. I don't give a fuck. Okay? I don't care. I don't care about that at all. They vote too. And if they vote for our candidates, it's great. Fantastic. The point is, you're not going to win them over, and you mustn't win them over or try to win them over by being racist. You don't compromise on those issues. You offer them things so they can make a new calculation, right? You offer them things that improve their lives, and you earnestly communicate that you will fight for improving their material needs, their material conditions. And then they vote for you. And hopefully, slowly but surely, when they become a part of this coalition, they shed away their previous opinions about certain races or trans people. That's the goal. That's how you win. That's how you build a movement. Okay? This has always been my mentality. This is also this is a big part of the reason why I advocate for universality, right? Like universal healthcare. No more means-tested bullshit that creates unnecessary pressure, unnecessary stress, that creates fiscal cliffs, that cause people to recalculate their financial circumstances because like they don't want to fall off this benefits cliff, right? That's it. That's it. Racist people need homes too, right? Racist people need healthcare too. The goal is not to try and win them by becoming more racist, which is what these guys say. Like these centrist right-wingers are like, oh, in order to win these races, God forbid you actually fucking advocate for healthcare or anything like that they might need. You have to become more racist. It's a failure. That's a failure. That's a moral failure, and that's an electoral failure. It has failed. It has failed every single time it's been implemented. It failed in 2016, and it failed in fucking 2024. It failed. What is this? I know this is meant to be a bad thing, but objectively speaking, a Republican who cavorted with Alex Jones won the presidency twice. Yeah, it's stupid. That whole, you are the only Jesus some people will ever see can apply to policy too. We show them the way and they follow. What? Anyway, we want the racists to vote for us in spite of the racism, not because of it. That's how this always works. You weren't always woke. No one is. Opinions change when incentives align. Feed the homeless and allow the space for them to develop social skills. Yeah, I mean, exactly. Exactly. What? I will log off. Only found Hasan since TYT, but then recently started watch Twitch out of boredom. But shit's pointless anyways. Anyways, good for Hasan if he can make moolah by yapping. I don't know if yelling on Twitch will help you. You're right. I should not do that. I should just quit. Like right now. I should quit instead. I mean, is that all I do? Like people will say that regardless, but like, you know, I do actually put my money where my mouth is. I actually put my body on the line as well for the things that I believe in. I'm all around the place. I go around the country. I go around the world, visit areas of American impact, and try to do my best as a singular individual, right? Like with the hopes that, you will do the same. All right. Wait, people still on your dick? Yeah, the Cory Booker thing is really funny. Booker admitting that he's never listened to a single minute of Assange's show and only put out a position because Third Way prodded his office. This is exactly the same thing that Elisa Slotkin did, which was really funny, where they're like, I don't really know anything about this guy, but I think he's bad. It's like, why would you admit that? Why? Like, sure, I'm an irrelevant figure, right? I'm not that relevant. I'm not that significant. But like, why would you admit to people that you don't even like care about the shit that you're saying? This is the number one gripe that people have with politicians, is that they're just empty husks that don't have personal conviction, that don't have fucking personal opinions on anything, and are just simply a mouthpiece for whatever fucking lobbyist or campaign consultant is telling them the talking points that they get. It's unbearable. Dude, that is just wrong. Half of our DSA chapter joined because of you. Hell yeah. I mean, great. It doesn't matter. It's good. Great. I didn't say I have no impact whatsoever. I have some impact. Slowly but surely we'll have more impact. But it's not, I'm not like a kingmaker. I'm not a singular person. No one is. No one is a singular force that can change the trajectory of American politics. That's not how this stuff works. It's a movement. We all play a major role in this. All of you, every single individual in this chat that goes out and speaks to their parents, speaks to other people out in the real world, and defends these positions that we all believe in, you're playing a major role here, okay? I'm just one fucking guy. I am nothing without all of you. That's how it works. That's how I've always explained this process, and I will continue to keep, I'll continue to say the truth, because that is the truth.
Office, you said, and it's just one person, but it's part of a large group of, I think, people that have this point of view, that you wouldn't say go on like Hasan Piker's stream because he's said some heinous and stupid shit in the...
Yeah, I don't like the way John also presented this, because like he's known me for a decade, right? Like, but it is what it is.
Past, but to me,
I've done his show. You know what I mean? Come on, John.
Expect you'd be like chomping at the bit to say, you know what? Of course I'm going to go there because I want to represent this point of view in a place that doesn't normally hear it. And I want to talk about the ways in which I think some of the things he said are offensive. The same way you might want to go confront somebody on Fox News, or you've met with, talked to Newt Gingrich and he said crazy shit in the past too. So maybe part of the way out of this is for someone like you to go to those spaces, even if there have been things that are offensive to people.
Yeah. So first of all, somehow we're having a much more deeper and personal conversation than I thought. So I'm going to be very candid with you.
These podcasts think you're Adolf Hitler? No, they don't. I talk to them every fucking day, pretty much. Specifically, John Favreau, whose show I will be on. You guys, stop. Pod safe scumbags are enemies. That's why. Shut the fuck up. They're not, okay? Stop. Thank God I don't fucking operate in the same way that you guys do. Because if I was just as, like, ruthless to people and just as not open-minded to people changing their mentality, I would have zero fucking allies right now, okay? None of you know how to fucking coalition build. You guys are insane. You have to literally dial it back, brother. Jesus Christ. Pod Save America was formative in the Grant Plattner campaign and in the Abdul El-Sayed campaign. Like, they're obviously recognizing exactly what the fuck America needs right now, and they're leaning into it. Stop being so goddamn ruthless to people. Oh my God. You need to be, you need to stop being insane, please. I don't even care that John Love has said this, okay? It doesn't matter.
Gotcha.
Got me, but in a very good way.
I always want to talk to you about deep things.
No, I appreciate that. And that's why I appreciate you, frankly. So here's the candor. I had no idea who this person was until a few days ago. Mm-hmm. I never heard their name.
That's going around, I think, yeah.
And I still haven't heard him speak even. I haven't heard anything he's done. The man.
That's a crazy thing to admit, by the way. I don't even know if it's true or not. It might be, and it might not be, right? But that's a crazy thing to admit. Like, you're basically fucking saying, like, I don't know anything about this guy. They just fed me talking points, and I said those talking points. And it's like, brother, don't you understand? That's precisely the thing that people hate about politicians. Like, you should never, as a politician, you should never admit that, in my opinion, okay? Never admit that you're an empty suit, a husk for a collection of talking points that like lobbyists have given you. Don't do that. You don't have to know who I am, but be honest, right? Don't throw your comms director under the bus in the way that he's doing, right? He's like, well, my comms director gave me these choice quotes and I thought, wow, heinous, you know? Just be like, this is irrelevant. Why am I fucking talking about a Twitch streamer? Shut up. That's what you would normally do, right? If you don't know who I am, you say, I don't know who he is. I'm not going to talk about this. It's ridiculous. You understand? And it's crazy because like Cory Booker's supposed to be the guy in charge of social media for the Democratic Party. And he's like, Cory Booker claiming he had no idea who Hasan Piker was before a few days ago, and he'd never even heard his name is either a bald-faced lie or reveals how stunningly ignorant these politicians are about the online world. Cory Booker's the one leading the Senate Dems on social media stuff. Yeah. And it's so dumb. It's so dumb to be like, I don't know anything about this guy, but also here are all the things that I said about him. He's a bad guy. Why would you fucking admit that? You guys see what I'm saying? I know it's me in the crosshairs technically, right? It's technically me in the crosshairs. So for a lot of people, you think like, oh, this is self-serving. You're just defending your own honor. You're defending yourself. And it's like, no, I'm actually identifying a major fucking problem with the way that politicians are perceived. This is a much broader problem. This is not about me at all, right? I'm removing myself from this equation and you should too. This has nothing to do with me and something to do with like the way politicians are perceived. Okay. You aren't important enough for him to personally know about. He has people for this. Duh. No, brother. How do you not understand? If I'm so insignificant, if I'm so inconsequential and you're a goddamn senator, the way that you respond to this is, I'm a fucking senator. I got real shit to worry about. What do you mean I'm going to disavow some random guy? I don't know him. Do you not understand? That's the point. Saying this doesn't actually own me at all. Saying this actually shows that he is a mouthpiece for lobbyists. Lobbyists come to him and they issue talking points and he says those talking points. That is literally the problem with Democrats. The way that Democrats are perceived broadly for good reason, because they are fucking mouthpieces for lobbyists.
And sitting over there is my comms director.
It's almost as if there's a bunch of focus on one random streamer and it's not really the right way to have a big debate. Yeah.
That's my point. Like, so my comms director said to me, oh, you're getting asked this question. Would you go on the show? And I'm like, well, who is this person? And all he did, the totality of this person he gave me.
Right there, that guy.
He's not on camera, so I don't feel like I'm implicating him. Mm-hmm. The totality of what he did to me was show me 4 or 5 of the most outrageous things.
And they're pretty outrageous.
They are. I said, okay, well, whoa.
Right.
Let's give whatever you saw officially coming out of my office. So here's a couple things. And I have this experience, I don't want to say daily. My wife experienced it last night in the airport as somebody was wanting to take a moment as I come off this very long flight and to scream at me. I always tell people, give me a Mother's Day card, please, because I get called you mother often. And it's from people on wings of both parties.
It'd really be a Father's Day card in that sense.
Well, but calling me a mother.
Well, you're not the mother.
Oh, you're right. I never thought about that analysis here.
Any kind of card would do, I think.
I appreciate that.
Why does Booker assume you want him on the show? I don't know. I guess, it doesn't really matter. Now, obviously, the biggest problem that I have with Cory Booker is not what he's saying about me. I don't give a shit what he says about me. I don't care about having him on the show at all. My biggest problem with Cory Booker is that he is aligned with some of the most malign forces in American politics, okay? He has linked up with Yoav Gallant, a war criminal, the former indicted war criminal, right? He is linked up with Benjamin Netanyahu, another indicted war criminal by the International Criminal Court, okay, by the ICC. So that is infinitely worse than any number of things that anyone could possibly say, not just myself, right? This is ridiculous. Like you as a senator doing that is far more consequential than any number of different things that any number of different Twitch streamers, podcasters, or whoever the fuck could ever say. That is unforgivable, right? Because that's real. That has real impact. That says a lot more. You can be as positive and as like optics focused as you want, right? But at the end of the day, you're doing that shit. That's so much worse. That's real harm. You're advancing material harm. Booker admitting that he's never listened to a single minute of Hasan's show and only put out a position because Third Way prodded his office. Then he went on a long, largely unrelated ramble deflection about getting heckled at the airport constantly and the importance of reaching across the aisle on a personal level to ultra-conservative senators like the late Jim Inhofe. And what's really funny about this, by the way, what's really funny about this is that he still gave such a wishy-washy, centrist-ass position when asked. Cory Booker and all these right-wing Democrats cannot have any conviction. Just have conviction. Be like, he's a bad guy. Lie and say, I know him very well. He is a malign force in the party. He is a cancer. We have to purge him. It's unbelievable. Even then, he's still a fucking centrist. It's like, yeah, you know, I said he was a bad guy because someone gave me choice quotes. And, you know, I was prodded by the lobbying arm of the party. But honestly, I don't really know. Maybe we should reach across the aisle. It's like, why would you do that? Why are you such a fucking centrist? Why are you such a goddamn centrist that you can't even have a consistent position on this, you know? Yeah, it's ridiculous that like Cory Booker also is the guy who is claiming he's never heard of me, but like he's leading the Senate Dem social media efforts. Like that's crazy. He should talk to his staffers. They know who the fuck I am. They're probably in here right now. You know? So funny. I can't believe you're criticizing someone who did a record-breaking filibuster that didn't even symbolically deter the Trump machine in any way. I know. That is perhaps perfectly illustrative of the way that Cory Booker and others like him want to have impact, right? That's it. It's me. I'm on Cory Booker's staff. I get paid to watch HasanAbi. Yeah. Anyway, last point on this is going to be 1 year ago, Cory Booker spoke for 25 hours. Here's what it accomplished. Nothing. Yeah. The Haaretz New York correspondent. Since when has Hasan Piker had become some litmus test for politicians? This is the inverse of the moral panic pro-Israel pundits are trying to stir. Absolute brain rot. A malevolent actor should not be allowed to corral the DNC into very bad corners, thus orchestrate a campaign to make fast their equivalent between a podcaster and people in power who are now bombing Iran in the name of Jesus Christ is especially transparent, but apparently not that transparent for other podcast bros. Yeah. No, I know he didn't do anything. I know he didn't do anything. It's zero. He accomplished zero. 1 book tour, 0 votes stopped, 0 bills passed. I know. Yeah, what they also don't want to reckon with, or what they fail to reckon with, is that the average voter is way, way more anti-Semitic, like actually anti-Semitic. Okay? I'm not anti-Semitic. I fight against anti-Semitism. Have you seen the average voter? You probably haven't. That's precisely the reason why you think I am not someone who is desperately trying to hold on to a sense of normalcy and combat bigotry, no matter what kind of bigotry exists, including but not limited to anti-Semitism. When you launch these fucking attacks against me, you don't understand. Like there are a lot of people out there who think the most significant way of combating Israel is by, being anti-Semitic. It's crazy. Where you are a lot more extremist, sometimes your outward support for groups like Hamas, Hezbollah, Ansar Allah, and Iran, the most extreme view that Americans have on these groups is indifference or dislike. I think that's your worst, most attackable stance. Yeah, except the point that I make always is that these groups have valid reasons to resist. Okay? They have valid reasons to resist. It's that simple. And I'm not going to shy away from my perspective. Okay? Not only is resistance to occupation totally legal, okay, it's not I'm not going to lie to you. That's my point. I'm not going to lie to you just because the average American might not be ready to hear what I have to say, okay? And I've never done that, and I will continue to be honest with you, okay? That's it. I know Americans don't want to hear that. They are heavily propagandized. That's precisely the reason why we find ourselves in these fucking endless quagmires where we're seemingly finding unlimited billions of dollars that go to blowing up fucking schools overseas, but no money in the bank to build schools in your fucking neighborhood, right? So who gives a shit? Most people I interact with in real life in the metro Atlanta are so un-PC they get fired by the most liberal nonprofits within a week. This is why the party needs to stop alienating young men by getting mad at Joe Rogan or Hasan or whatever. Most dudes say something intemperate or slightly offensive on the regular. That's how dudes operate. The Republicans know this and don't go on witch hunts about it. They win men, no surprise. Men and women are on average wired differently. Okay, this stuff is fucking ridiculous, okay? This stuff is ridiculous. Yeah, God, Zaid loves culture war shit so much. But on the inverse, right? He is like the anti-culture war warrior that ends up constantly fucking talking about culture war and even engaging in like gender essentialism. It's fucking ridiculous. Women, the men, who cares, man? It's crazy. Yeah. Benjamin Netanyahu's Cory Booker. Benjamin Netanyahu's a horrible person. Also Cory Booker. Yeah. Like, I think Zaid would do much better analysis if he wasn't so hyper invested in fucking IdPol. It's crazy. My people, the Easter Party, stop talking about Iranian people are all radicals. I don't know what that means. Okay. Do average Dems even do culture war anymore? I think the Democratic voters don't. And the Democratic consultant class and the political class only deploy identity politics in a very cynical way to cut out their left flank from the equation. They will look at people like myself who has spent a lifetime fighting against white supremacy and anti-blackness and will cynically take a clip completely out of context to say, see, Hasan is telling black people to shut the fuck up, right? And it's usually the people that stand in opposition. It's often the people that stand in opposition to combating white supremacy that do this. It's so cynical, okay? It's so fucking cynical. It's always a handshake between right-wing forces in the Democratic Party, which get a lot of mileage in mainstream press, and outright neocons and reactionaries and fascists on the right who can so quickly tune up people. But luckily, a lot of the Democratic voters are no longer getting fooled by this. There's still a way to go, right? There's still a way to go. It's always, this hurts your cause by a guy who hates you and your cause. Mamdani's blatant disregard for middle classes put him at odds with black New Yorkers. Funny to see how both the establishment Dems and Republicans are trying the black identitarian angle against Mamdani. That is exactly what they're doing, okay? It's concern trolling, and I don't think people are falling for it as much anymore, and I'm glad that they're not falling for it as much anymore. The voters are done with this shit because they saw it with Bernie. They saw it with every left flank candidate. Okay. I think the average person sees this stuff and go, what the fuck are you talking about? Right. Most people love this guy for good reason. He's a very, very popular politician. He's a very popular mayor. Right. And that's good. It's a good thing that he's a very popular mayor. Honestly, I feel like other leftists and libs fall for the hate campaigns against you more than normies do and the sexism accusations. Yes, I know. It's because they're operating on, unfortunately, a hyper online echo chamber. That's what it is. If they were to go outside and talk to normal fucking people, if they were to have normal relationships with regular ass people, they probably would have a very different attitude. We have our good share of that in our sphere as well. Look at the way people respond to some of these guys like the Pod Johns, right? Like that's why I always say just be normal, just be normal, just be normal, be cool, be chill. That plays a major role in convincing people, right? Yeah, just patch up. We desperately need a woke 2.0 update, okay? You don't have to compromise on your values, you don't have to compromise on your advocacy, but you don't have to carry that resentment over to the average person every single fucking day, right? You don't have to be duped by people that are very clearly trying to tune you up. Try to figure out who this person is, what their background is, why they're saying these sorts of things, right? Yeah, this is another like incredible fucking take. Opinion. It is time for Mamdani to stand in solidarity with Muslim leaders who eschew anti-Semitic tropes such as genocide and occupation and are committed to a new, broader realignment in the Middle East. Yeah, tropes such as genocide, tropes such as occupation, tropes such as apartheid. Okay, that's not what a trope is, buddy. That's just what the truth is. Uh-oh, the U.S. State Department is doing a trope. Israel and the occupied territories, Israel and the occupied territories, the occupied territories, right? Yeah, words have no more meaning. It doesn't matter. It's not anti-Semitic to accurately reflect on what Israel as a nation state is doing, okay? You're out of your fucking mind. This is unbelievably off-putting, okay? This kind of stuff is unbelievably off-putting. And that's precisely the reason why a lot of these people's attitude on this issue has been to say, why am I supposed to care about this Twitch streamer? I don't give a fuck. What does he stand for? Is he anti-Israel? Well, I'm anti-Israel too. Fuck you. That's it. For the record, be cool, be chill is much better language than be normal and runs less risk of alienating people. Enfant door, I promise you I'm not getting any optics lessons from you, okay? Come on. When I say be normal, I'm talking about you specifically, okay? You know this. We have a lot of back and forths, okay? Yeah, it's we're not going to have a philosophical debate on what normalcy means, and are you actually engaging in ableism when you say be normal? Are you actually alienating people who are neurodivergent and might not feel normal? What is normalcy after all? Do you think this message is going to have a larger impact in Michigan, in the state of Michigan? You know? Let's say you're trying to have a quick and easy conversation with like as broad of an audience as possible. Do you think we should be doing that? The beauty of this statement of be normal is that it's personally different for every single person, right? That's why when I say it, everyone goes, well, okay, that makes sense. That's it. Your normal is different than anybody else's, and it doesn't matter. Archid265, thank you for the 20 gifted subs. All right. Joe Concha, this is pathetic. Absolutely pathetic. Rokana, looking forward to you explaining how America deserved 9/11. Of course, 9/11 was a terrorist act against America, and we were justified in our strikes against Al-Qaeda. I spoke out against that statement forcefully. Do you stand by every statement that Trump has made or every right-wing commentator who you have engaged with? We need to stop with gotcha politics. So yeah, they're trying to cook Rokana with this. They're trying to be like, oh, Rokana, he loves Hasan, he loves 9/11, which, it's tied up. It's a lie about me that then gets advanced as like a truth, right? It's a misunderstanding. And then it's like packaged into anyone that's associating with me. But all you got to do is, this is ridiculous, man. I don't agree with every single thing that he said. It doesn't fucking matter to me. And not only that, but also it's blowback, right? All right. So Rokana went on Meet the Press, okay? Rokana went on Meet the motherfucking Press. And apparently, amidst this major energy crisis that we've caused because we got goaded by Israel into fucking blowing up Iran and doing terrorism and spending and lighting on fire billions of dollars, right? Amidst that crisis, Meet the Press still has time to be like, well, Rokana, as an elected, what do you have to say about this talking point that we got from fucking one of the advocacy groups that is still trying to maintain some semblance of control over the Democratic Party and ensure that the Democratic Party is a right-wing corporatist party, even though that is what has precisely led to their defeat over and over again, right? The world is on fire, and they're still going, what about Hasan? No, but appealing to normalcy in reference to a white supremacist genocidal state and society is fucking crazy. No, it's not. It's not. It's not even. You're absolutely wrong. You got to go where people are at and talk to them in a language that they understand. I'm not saying compromise on your values. I'm saying talk to people in a way where you're pleasant. Talk to people in a way where they'll be more responsive to you. If you talk to them crazy style, they're going to go, everything that you fucking represent is disgusting. I don't care about it. Fuck you. Okay? You're an insane person. Right? Don't be an antisocial fucking weirdo just because you understand that you have the morally correct position, the morally righteous position, doesn't mean that's how you end up convincing people, okay? Most people think their position is the morally righteous position. Do you understand?
I do want to ask you, here we are in the midst of the midterms. You're someone who's been quite outspoken. You have made several appearances on a show hosted by socialist commentator Hasan Piker. Some of your fellow Democrats, though, have raised alarms about his views. Here are two members of a left-leaning think tank. This is how they put it. They wrote, quote, "No left-wing agitator is more influential and extreme than Twitch streamer Hasan Piker. He's referred to ultra..."
I was asking in good faith what door knock campaigns you funded or organized. I know some other creators who have done, but I'm not aware for you. I'd eager to have that information. Could you please respond, bud? Please respond to my question if you don't mind, bud. I'm eager to have that conversation. Do you see what's on the screen right now? Okay. The reason that that's on screen right now is because not only has my community fundraised actively and also is currently in the process of door knocking actively for a candidate, I'm actually going out to stump with that candidate. And that's why the story is actually imploded. If you pay a little bit more attention to what's in front of you, I think you'll probably figure it out. Right? Do you understand? Like, I mean, hopefully this is a sincere question and maybe you'll understand what's going on. But, you know, there are a fuck ton of candidates that I have elevated, that I have, worked with leading up to this primary season, but certainly before it as well. I mean, I'll give you an example. I've worked privately with like the John Ossoff and Raphael Warnock campaigns behind scenes. I'm a bit unsure, to be honest. Okay. Well, do you see what's on screen? Like, why do you think that's happening right now? Why do you think these guys are yelling about me? Like, what do you? Anyway, whatever. Let's continue.
Orthodox Jews as inbred, employed anti-Semitic dog whistles, bloodthirsty, violent pig dog.
What up with Zoran, who got yelled at quite a bit? That's a Destiny fan, by the way. He said the thing that got debanned in the first place in other chats. Oh, nice.
Hamas viewer of his stream compared liberal Zionists to liberal Nazis and said Hamas is 1,000 times better than the Israeli state. Now, Hasan Piker says some of his comments have been taken out of context, but he largely stands by them. Do you have any regrets about appearing on his show?
None, and I would go again. But I, of course, condemn those comments. I mean, I've described Hamas as a terrorist state. And we need to unequivocally condemn anti-Semitism. But Hasan Piker was at the DNC in 2024, covering
like even like the condemnation in and of itself is like, we don't have to entertain this stuff. You know, I don't think we have to entertain this stuff at all. We can just be like, look, man, like, what are we doing? Israel's done a genocide. Like, people are going to resist against that. Like, it's unbelievable that this is like being presented as like the major point of contention here, right? It's ridiculous.
Vice President Harris. What should the standard of the Democrats be? Should we not go on Theo Vaughn? Should we not go on Sean Ryan? Should we not go on Joe Rogan? Should we just have these purity tests of canceling folks? The lesson of
it's also really funny because, like, unlike Theo Vaughn, unlike Joe Rogan, unlike Sean Ryan, I don't harbor any reactionary points of view. I'm opposed to reactionary ideology, which is precisely the reason why people are doing these sorts of attacks. Okay? But in any case, let's continue.
The last election is we've got to be out there. We've got to engage. It's a complex, messy, multiracial democracy. I will defend my views, but the people who are saying don't engage will cost us future elections.
Do you run the risk of legitimizing some of those views by appearing on his show? How do you answer that?
He's got millions of followers. He'll have millions of followers whether Ro Khanna goes on his show or not. The point is that we should go on and have tough conversations. You know, actually, I respect Rahm Emanuel. Rahm Emanuel says he'll go on, and if he makes a comment that I disagree with, then I will push back right there. So I think the test should be what you say. If someone is going on these programs and not pushing back against anti-Semitism, fine. But you know, I haven't done the background check on you, Chris, and I'm sure there are no crazy comments.
I have not said anything like that. I can assure you that. Where do you draw the line, Congressman? Would you appear on, for example, a right-leaning show? Alex Jones, for example, who has made controversial comments that have enraged people, hurt people deeply in some instances.
Look, there is obviously a line, and I probably wouldn't appear on Alex Jones. But the point is, I don't think that line should be with Hasan Piker, who has millions of followers, and largely what his view has been critical of the blank check that we gave Netanyahu in the war in Gaza. Now, I don't agree with every one of his statements, and it's a judgment call. But here's what I will say, Kristen. The Democratic Party has been too reluctant to get out there, to mix it up, to engage.
Yeah, by the way, let's see who legitimized me in the past, because this is NBC News' Meet the Press. Oh, that's right. It's NBC News. Behind the scenes with Twitch streamer HasanAbi. Here's NBC News. Twitch is transforming into a political arena. Hasan Piker is at the forefront. That's why it's so ridiculous. That's why it's so ridiculous. It's like, you knew all this back then too. You brought it up. I gave you my opinion on it, right? Like, that's what's so crazy about it. These are, because all the quotes that they're utilizing that like the ADL has sent around, right? All of those quotes are from before these interviews were conducted. Okay? Some of those quotes are directly addressed in these interviews. Okay? That's what the problem is. It's so inconsistent. It's so ridiculous. Did Meet the Press give you a heads up? No, of course not. Of course not. That's what's so funny about it, is that like every single one of these outlets is now doing this. They've all done these sorts of videos. They've done these sorts of press coverage. They've done this sort of press coverage, which a lot of people unironically think is like is something I paid for. Like there's a lot of people on Twitter that are so hysterical and so insane about this that they legitimately think like I pay. So stupid. Democratic consultants clearly don't actually want to win elections. They want to cling to a pastime of respectability policies that requires them to boycott any objectionable figures. Trump talks to Alex Jones in 2015 and won. Talked to all sorts of characters in 2024 and won. Democrats need to get a fucking grip and snap to reality. Yeah. And the other side of this, of course, is that I'm not even like Alex Jones at all. Like, I'm not like those people at all. I'm not like Joe Rogan at all. This is part of the reason why I was annoyed when people were like, oh, we need a Joe Rogan to the left. I was like, and you're the Joe Rogan to the left. I was like, no, I'm not actually. And I don't even think that you can win by developing a Joe Rogan to the left. That's not how this works, right? Just advocate for good policies that actually materially improve people's lives, okay? That's what you need to do. And you need to be earnest about it. And you need to be bold. And you need to not worry about the way that people are going to attack you. You need to be a little bit more shameless, right? They want someone like you without your views and glaze of them. Exactly. That's not how this media environment works at all, right? That's not how this media environment works at all. It's frustrating that people are just like not cognizant. There is no waking up. They aren't in some sort of stupor. They cannot let the left wing of the party that will tax the billionaire donors win. Exactly. Last sentence. Khanna defends engagement with Piker. The Hill has reached out to the White House for comment on Piker's post. Uh-oh. Donald Trump is going to fucking snap into play. You absolutely need to be sending out response to NBC calling you an anti-Semite, quoting the Jewish insider David Frum, Claude analysis, and comparing you to Alex Jones. Buddy, that's not how that works, okay? I'm a very accessible media figure, an accessible media figure that they've literally interviewed in the past. Obviously, they have access to me if they choose to reach out for comment. They are actively choosing to speak over me rather than speak to me. This is a deliberate attempt to play. This is a deliberate attempt to, play into the smear campaign, which is fine. I'll take it. I'll take it because this kind of like media coverage doesn't hurt anymore. It doesn't hurt at all. It actually helps. Gearing up for a big week of discussing Hasan Piker's role in the Democratic Party. The supreme leader of the DNC. Yeah, I'm the Ayatollah of the DNC. Ayatollah Hasan Piker. Attacks are coming from all angles. Lamouth's are so desperate and showing. Yes, but this is the position that I've been in my entire career. If you're on the left, you sometimes have a lot of friction with the right-wing forces in the Democratic Party. Okay? And if you're on the left, you absolutely draw so much enmity, so much ire from the right. All of the right-wing forces, from center-right figures all the way to neocons, reactionaries, Israel firsters, and neo-Nazis. This is just the position that we've always been in, okay? I'm very aware of this. That's why I always say, look, man, being a left is about taking L's gracefully. You're going to take a lot of L's. We live in the United States of America. A lot of people are completely oblivious to our worldview or outright antagonistic to it because of their social conditioning, okay? And that's it. So get used to it. Get ready for it. You have to be able to receive this kind of blowback all the time. And I have for years. I've had for decades, right? This is something that I try to explain to people. You have to be endlessly empathetic. You have to be endlessly empathetic, no matter, how repulsive someone's worldview might be, if you're trying to convince them. Obviously, I have my weak moments. I'm speaking for 10 hours every fucking day. There are going to be plenty of opportunities. Not being antisocial for explaining patiently the curious, not fucking Nazis, but is that what you simply mean by be normal? Not being antisocial is a fucking crazy world. How are you supposed to be normal about it? How would one go about this in Nazi Germany? Yeah, I mean, there was a shit ton of resistance in Nazi Germany, right? The communists were actively, once it got to that point, they were actively fighting. They were actively engaging in like street battles, okay? But how did they reach broad awareness? They looked at the social forces, they looked at where the masses were, and they worked to organize. 800,000 people were sent to camps in Nazi Germany. 800,000 Germans were sent to camps in Nazi Germany for resisting against the government. Okay, 800,000. And I'm sure that, leading up to create this movement, they were being fucking normal, right? They were being normal and organizing. And when the situation changed dramatically, when the conditions changed dramatically, they even rose up in arms and tried to resist militarily, right? Anyway. So let's finish this video and then we're going to move on, obviously.
And we should be on doing more of these things. We should have done more interviews during 2024. Vice President Vance was on like 3 for our folks. We've got to be out engaging in the media, out engaging in podcasts, out engaging in communities, and offering our vision going forward. Okay.
We thank you for watching. And
a second American.
Okay, we're now going to move on to the U.S. airman that was found safe and sound after the F-15 in Iran. This was a very complex combat search and rescue operation that took place. There are a lot of details that have been revealed. There was a lot of inconsistency in the reporting early on yesterday. This took place over the entire day yesterday during nighttime in Iran. And I'm going to parse through some of the information that's come out and hopefully offer a little bit more clarity, even though it's outright confusing what actually took place.
American airman has been rescued in Iran. It was a risky mission with hundreds of special operations forces deployed deep in a mountainous region. Chief Global Affairs anchor Martha Radz has been tracking the mission all through the night. She starts us off. Good morning, Martha.
Good morning, George. This was an incredibly complex and dangerous operation for the rescue team and for that missing Air Force aviator who had evaded capture behind enemy lines for days. But in the end, the news we had all been hoping for, that the second crew member is now out of Iran, seriously wounded, according to the president, but he is safe. Overnight, that stunning announcement. The second Air Force officer from the downed U.S. fighter jet in Iran, rescued by U.S. Special Operations Forces and now safely back in U.S. hands. President Trump posting on social media saying, over the past several hours, the United States military pulled off one of the most daring search and rescue operations in U.S. history for one of our incredible crew member officers. This brave warrior was behind enemy lines in the treacherous mountains of Iran, being hunted down by our enemies, who were getting closer and closer by the hour. The Air Force colonel was the weapons systems officer, or WISO, the airman in the back seat of the aircraft. It was a Herculean effort to bring the colonel to safety, and an extraordinary effort for him to evade capture for nearly 2 days, following the rescue of the pilot of that F-15 fighter jet in the hours just after the crash on Friday. A senior administration official telling ABC News that prior to locating the WISO and the Department of War's daring rescue, the CIA first launched a deception campaign, spreading word inside Iran that U.S. forces had already found him and were moving him on the ground for exfiltration out of the country. Retired Commander John Hilt was a Navy F/A-18 Super Hornet pilot who flew combat missions in Afghanistan, Iraq, and Syria, and was a rescue mission commander and forward air controller trained to oversee these types.
It is kind of crazy that that as far as like manpower and as far as like competency goes, I still stand by my statements from before that like the American military, when it really needs to, is probably the only competent organization that we have. Obviously, there's still a lot of issues with like contractor bloat and whatnot, But this operation in and of itself that we lost a shit ton of gear in, that has inconsistencies in the way that it's being reported, absolutely is one of those instances, right? Obviously, the people in leadership roles are using one of the only competent tools that the American government has to do maximum violence for no real discernible reason. But it's crazy to me that like when it needs to be pulling off like, crazy feats, they are able to do that. Okay. The reality of the matter is, as far as a technical operation goes, a combat search and rescue operation is unbelievably difficult. Okay. It's unbelievably difficult. This is not glaze of the imperialist war machine. This is just regular analysis of all of the events that have unfolded. Okay. So that's one aspect. Like, the reality of the matter is, like, and I've said this before, I said this yesterday and the day before as well, parajumpers are like some of the, like the combat search and rescue operators, and the parajumpers are some of the bravest dudes in the military in general, some of the best trained dudes in the military in general. And like pararescue operators are, they do objectively crazy shit, right? And at least like that's how they're treated by people who are much more knowledgeable than someone like myself, and medics as well, combat medics in particular. Some of the details, however, is pretty wild from what from the way that this has been presented and the way that this was reported on initially. Okay. There are a lot of inconsistencies. Okay. There are a lot of inconsistencies with like how they are how this thing played out. They're obviously trying to show their best. They're trying to do the best to make it seem like this was a total success with like very little friction whatsoever. That's obviously impossible, right? They're trying to increase the valiance and the bravery while simultaneously, talk about how incompetent the Iranian defenses have been. So I'll tell you from what I know and what I've seen and what I've read thus far on this mission. First, I'll give you the national political reporter for Spectrum News, Taylor Poplar's, and their assessment from CENTCOM. Tampa, Florida, on April 4th, U.S. forces successfully completed the rescues of 2 American service members from Iran after their F-15E fighter jet was shot down April 2nd during a combat mission. The service members were safely recovered during separate search and rescue missions. U.S. strikes into Iran continue as U.S. Central Command forces dismantle the Iranian regime's ability to project power beyond its borders. That last part is obviously bullshit. The 2 crew members of the F-15E Strike Eagle, the first loss to enemy fire in the month-long war, had both ejected from the cockpit on Friday after Iran's military struck their plane. The jet's pilot was quickly rescued, but its weapons systems officer could not be found, setting off an urgent search and major consequences for Mr. Trump and the war that the United States and Israel launched on February 28th. The mission was to save the crew member and employed hundreds of special forces troops and other military personnel, dozens of U.S. warplanes, helicopters, and cyberspace and other intelligence capabilities. The airmen evaded Iranian force for more than 24 hours, at one point hiking up a 7,000-foot ridgeline, a senior U.S. military official said. So what's interesting about this is like every single thing that you hear from mainstream media will be deliberate. Every single thing that you hear from the New York Times about this operation is deliberate, even down to the last statement in this operation, which is, I think, one of the most interesting parts of this. The CIA often also plays a role in making contact with civilians willing to help vulnerable troops stay alive, a process known as unconventional assisted recovery. Okay? That could very well be the CIA reaching out to Iranians who played a role in the unconventional assisted recovery, or it could very well be the CIA saying that so that they create some instability when the Iranians see this and they go, "What the? We have moles amongst our ranks, right?" Or it's a way to make the Iranian government more paranoid, while simultaneously greatly propagandizing their capabilities. Whether or not this is real, it doesn't matter, right? Like, they're saying it's real, they're leaning into it, as though they have that capability, right? God is good was the first. Yeah, exclusive. Trump told me that the U.S. feared Iran trap after the first radio signal from the F-15 crew member was God is good. or there was no pilot to be saved. I don't think that that's the case. I think that they did recover the weapons officer, the weapons specialist on board. I think they did do that. So the competing interests and the statements on this from the Iranian side is the idea that Iran actually successfully either killed this person or kept him as hostage. But the reality of the matter is, if the Iranians actually did do that, you would see him, right? So once again, regardless of what the IRGC or whatever like Tasnim says, if they did do that, you would see it, right? They would show you because it's a major blow to the confidence that the American military has. An Air Force officer whose fighter jet had been shot down in Iraq was rescued, rescued by U.S. Special Operations Force in a risky Saturday night mission that took commandos deep into enemy territory, President Trump said on social media early on Sunday. The rescue followed a life-or-death race between U.S. and Iranian forces that stretched over 2 days to reach the injured airman, who was a weapons systems officer, current and former U.S. officials said. In the end, Navy SEAL Team 6 commandos extracted the officer in a massive operation that involved hundreds of special operations troops and other military personnel. And I do think that they probably deployed, from what I understand, they sent in the first search and rescue. The first search and rescue was able to find where the guy is, right? And they set up a cordon, like they cordoned off a 3-mile line around where the pilot or the weapons officer was, right? And they literally lasered any civilian that was in that 3-mile radius. Clearly, like they set up loitering, they set up Reaper drones, MQ-9 Reaper drones, around a 3-mile or a 3-kilometer line, and created a cordon sanitaire, and they just murdered whoever was near it, right? Whether you're a shepherd or whether you were like a civilian going home to your village, or whether you were actually, a Basij paramilitary force member, or a part of the police force, or even, a civilian who took up arms to go and try and find where this guy is. And they just lasered them, right? U.S. MQ-9 Reaper drones protected the rescued F-15E crew member by striking Iranian military-aged males. This is an admission that they killed civilians, by the way. When they say Iranian military-aged males, they're literally openly admitting that they set up a cordon sanitaire on Iranian soil and killed people in their own backyards, basically. And it also includes like children as well. Also includes people under the age of 18. That's what they say when they say military-aged male. That doesn't mean they're over the age of 18. That means they most likely kill people that are under the age of 18 as well. Believed to be a threat who got within 3 kilometers of the airman, a person familiar with the operation told Air and Space Forces magazine. So they did that. 13 to 55-year-olds. So they did that. They lasered all these people, right? They set up like a safe zone, which is not a very safe zone for people that just like live in the neighborhood, right? Obviously, live in the mountainside. And then the pararescuers came in, but they got stuck. They were able to get to the person who I think walked like 5 kilometers up a mountainside, and trekked after ejecting, and was able to light up that beacon, the emergency beacon, and hide, right? And they tried to clear out the area of any kind of anti-air defenses with the A-10 that was then destroyed in the process, right? Obviously, as we know. That was day 1, by the way, not even day 2. And on day 2, they set up a forward operating behind enemy lines. At least they claim that it was behind enemy lines. I have no reason to disbelieve that, but it is a mountainous region on the western side of Iran that's close to the Iraqi border. But they basically set up like a refueling runway a makeshift runway, which is just dirt, right? They found a FARP. Yeah, they created a FARP. That's what it's called, a forward arming and refueling point. Because helicopters are necessary to maneuver around, but obviously they have fuel restrictions. So what they did was create a runway for these planes that have the necessary fuel and munitions to land in. Okay. Fox News confirmed second crew member to down F-15E fighter jet has been rescued, and the members of the rescue team extracted him from behind enemy lines in Iran are all safely out of Iran. That according to two senior U.S. officials and multiple well-placed sources in the region. The weapons system officer ejected along with the pilot when the F-15E Strike Eagle they were flying was struck Thursday night, early Friday local time in southwest Iran. The WSO used SEER, Survival, Evasion, Resistance, and Escape training to evade capture, hiding on an elevated ridge after hiking away from the wreckage and putting out an emergency beacon. U.S. Special Operation Rescue Forces, including PJs, United States Air Force pararescuemen, and many layers of elite rescue forces, which I suspect is also Delta Force as well. You're parroting Pentagon propaganda? No, dude. I'm telling you what I have read thus far, and I'm going to tell you what parts of the operation are abject lies. Okay? The C-130s are also able to load up MH-6 Little Bird helicopters in the hull and deploy them once landed. That's almost certainly how that Little Bird helicopter had to be scuttled. Got there. Exactly. Complex layered mission to find both the crew member and also keep the Iranian forces who were hunting the American weapons system operator at bay. There are videos that have appeared from local eyewitnesses that show what appeared to have been injured and dead Iranian members of the IRGC in Basij who were looking for the downed American crew member. Fox has learned there was fighting on the ground, but no Americans killed during the operation. So I don't know if this is the case. Okay, I don't believe that this is the case, for the record. I don't believe that this is the case. And I think that they're most likely lying about that and also lying about exactly how the two cargo jets and also potentially one helicopter was destroyed in the process. Okay. It was a very complex operation to retrieve the downed service member, a well-placed source briefed on the operation told me. Many different branches of the U.S. military were involved in the rescue. Fox News confirmed the A-10 Warthog that crashed Friday was involved in providing cover for the rescue team searching for the pilot. That A-10 crashed in Kuwait, first reported by ABC Friday, but the A-10 pilot managed to eject safely and was rescued. There was destruction of aircraft which have sensitive equipment on board, I am told, all a part of the complex CSAR combat search and rescue mission. The F-15E was pretty much destroyed on impact. Two rescue helicopters were hit by enemy fire on Friday, and the crew members on board were injured by enemy fire but managed to make it out of Iran. There were a lot of elements to this rescue, I am told. So the destruction of the aircraft is the part that I think is inconsistent, and they're lying about it, right? I've seen images. It definitely was destroyed on the runway. The images of the destroyed aircraft are not consistent with an aircraft that was downed. Okay? It's not, for sure. So whether the Americans themselves or Delta Force themselves actually destroyed the aircraft in order not to let the Iranians get these, in order not to let the Iranians have access to this, like, you know, like special parts that it has, because these aren't like regular C-130s. They are they're specialized C-130s. The technology itself is obviously proprietary. They don't want the Iranians to get a hold of it, right? They don't want any of the foreign adversaries to get a hold of it. But I don't think it was the Americans that blew it up. They're claiming that it was the Americans that blew it up. But here are the confirmed losses with the current tally for this F-15 that was downed over Iran. There was one F-15E Strike Eagle that was destroyed, two HA-60 helicopters that were damaged, one MH-6 Little Bird that was destroyed, one A-10 Thunderbolt II was destroyed, two C-130 Hercules were destroyed, two MQ-9 Reapers were also destroyed in the process, and possible and unconfirmed damage was one F-16 Fighting Falcon, did an emergency squawk, one KC-135 shuttle tanker also had an emergency squawk. This was all on the first day. And one A-10 Thunderbolt II, possible emergency landing, which is dubious. So, you believe this bullshit wholly? They were all shot down and Trump authorized Hannibal directive to end it? No, I don't. I don't know why you are dude, listen. If that's the case and you're not coping, then you'll see. That's it. Okay? You'll see. You'll see. The reason why they expended so much on saving this one pilot is because they did not want a major fucking L that the Americans would take here if the Iranians were able to secure the prisoner of war. Okay? That would have given Iranians tremendous leverage. Okay? Instead of like killing every single person, that was in and around the area and destroy it, they tried to do an extraction. That was a very complex mission, and clearly they lost a lot of tools in the process, a lot of tech in the process as well. Many of that, in my opinion, was actually downed or destroyed, even if they're on the runway, by the Iranian defenses, for sure. And they're just simply saying that it was actually the United States that destroyed their own the gear. But we'll see. We'll see. Because if it was the Iranians that successfully destroyed everyone and killed everyone that was trying to do this extraction mission, you would have bodies. There would be bodies in the wreckage, and they would show those bodies because, once again, that's a major counter to the way that Americans have presented this mission, right? That's it. That's it. And the fact that they still don't have bodies to show means that it's most likely a successful mission for the Americans. Most likely a successful extraction mission for the Americans. So I know it's protocol to blow up anything you leave behind. Either they sent in Delta Force because the pararescuers do not have explosive munitions that they can deploy that blow up their own fucking tools. That must mean that they most likely sent in the Delta Force alongside a second rescue mission so that they could rescue the first rescue mission that was looking for the second pilot or the weapons specialist. Okay? That's my assumption. Lol, where did you get that info? Wait, what do you mean? Is it wrong? Now, the thing here, however, is that because Delta Force operates under, if it was reported it was DevGru SEAL Team 6, some of these special forces operators, even if they actually do get fucking shot or killed, they're not going to have the same reporting system that like a regular active duty, like regular forces have, right? Obviously, the military still has a duty to inform the next of kin. So even if it's like super classified, there are still leaks that take place. Okay. But the reason why you won't hear like actual casualty numbers from events like this is because they'll hide it in a training incident or something like that later down the line. And all you'll get if you're under the CIA, especially like the Delta Force would be, is a star. And that's the only record of your KIA that will ever exist. Okay, you'll just get a star in the fucking CIA base. The idea that like 0 wounded is also bullshit. That's what they said, but that's obviously not the case because they've already admitted that the pilot is like really fucked up, or not the pilot. Sorry, the WSO was actually wounded gravely. So. What is this? Look at those health cares. It would have been such a strong diplomatic bargaining chip for prisoner of war. A lot of our money. Double ply rescue missions. They cite their source. You can go evaluate. Okay. So Iran is obviously still rejecting openly the U.S. proposal to open the Strait of Hormuz in exchange for temporary ceasefire. So that should tell you what they think. Okay. That should tell you what they think about like what their position is. Okay. That's not true of DOD. They do get acknowledged as being KI as a part of military operations. We can look back on multiple instances of DEV and SFOD guys being killed during the global war on terror and prior that were acknowledged. Okay, so the fact that the only thing that we've seen from the Iranian side are the carcasses of blown up fighter jets, or not fighter jets, sorry, blown up cargo planes, and a mini chopper, a mini helicopter, implies that they most likely intercepted these jets while they were on this impromptu made runway, like a field that they were flying in and out of. But there were no U.S. casualties among the rescue team. Mr. Trump said all the commandos and the weapons officer returned safely. A senior U.S. military official said rescue planes flew the injured airmen to Kuwait for medical treatment. We got him, Mr. Trump exclaimed in the social media post. This brave warrior was behind enemy lines in the treacherous mountains of Iran, being hunted down by our enemies who were getting closer and closer by the hour. Mr. Trump said that the rescued officer, an Air Force colonel, had sustained injuries, but he will be just fine. The 2 crew members of the F-15E Strike Eagle, the first lost to enemy fire in the month-long war, had both ejected from the cockpit on Friday after Iran's military struck their plane. The jet's pilot, I got the IRGC statement. I'm going to show you. Some accounts cite this damage as proof it wasn't abandoned because of the sand. No. The planes were shot at for sure. Okay? But this wreckage is not consistent with a downed plane at all, because a downed plane would have actually a downed plane is flying at a specific altitude and it would actually dig into the fucking ground. Okay, that's it. The fact that this plane or the helicopter did not actually bring up any of the fucking ground at all implies that it clearly was on the runway. People are actually saying like, oh, as an aviation reporter in the past, this means that, high RPM during a crash impact is textbook dynamic. It's bullshit. No, that just melted. Okay. That's all this is. This guy is wrong. The propeller blades in attached pick are bent backwards exactly in a way they do when they're spinning at high RPM during crash impact. That's a textbook dynamic. If that was a high RPM altitude drop crash impact, okay, then there would be a fucking crater. You're ridiculous. Okay? You have to, you have to understand, like, look at the soil. The soil is not disrupted. It's crazy. Please be a little bit, be a little bit more normal about this. Yeah, it's clear that there are pics also. Yeah, I saw this as well. There are pics that it was on the ground as well. The different lighting in these 2 images suggests that they're real. Sunrise in Iran is at 5:49 a.m., which was just over 2 hours ago. The second image shows the C-130 burning with the sun fully up, which is largely in line with the timing of the Al Jazeera reports on the rescue operation. Okay? They most likely got shot at, and they had to bail. The IRGC now issued a statement claiming that they were the ones who destroyed the U.S. C-130 south of Isfahan, contradicting the New York Times claim that the U.S. forces blew them up to prevent the aircraft from falling into Iranian hands. So they emergency landed? No, I think they didn't get to take off at all. Okay? I don't think they got to take off at all. The claims are that they got stuck. Okay? I don't think that's correct. I think that's just them coping. I think that they got shot at, they were surrounded, and they had to fucking bail. As reported previously, Iranian state-linked Tasnim News claimed U.S. forces were bombing areas in the southwest Iran near the missing pilot believed to be located. That reporting now appears to have been borne out. The New York Times reported this morning that U.S. officials confirmed they deliberately destroyed 2 of their own aircraft identified as MC-130J transport planes at a remote site after they became stuck to prevent them from falling into Iranian hands. Either they fucking lasered it personally, or they were getting shot at. And then they decided to blow up the equipment. The search centered around rugged Khokhiliyeh and Boyer Ahmad province, particularly Kul El Sia area. The New York Times also reported, citing a senior administration official, that the CIA ran a deception operation to convince Iranian forces that the airmen had already been evacuated by ground convoy. Iran state-linked Tasnim News had earlier suggested the situation was not unfolding as publicly presented in Western media. Okay? And if you look at the wreckage, because there's plenty of image on the wreckage now, no bodies in the wreckage. The fact that there are no bodies in the wreckage. The fact that there are, dude, shut up. God, I'm like covering some shit, and this guy's like asking me about sex pestiny. Shut up, please. Jesus Christ, who gives a fuck? Oh my God, lock in, please. No, when multiple planes are down, they fall. They all land in the same spot to make cleaning up faster. Okay. I have not seen bodies in the wreckage at all. For the record, I did see a fake RT.com tweet with a skull going around and looked like a burnt car instead of a plane. I haven't seen any I haven't seen any bodies that they pulled out of the wreckage at all. There would be bodies if they were if they actually if the rescue operators did not bail on this before it got blown to bits. Clearly, there would be bodies in the wreckage, and there are none. So that implies that they're they didn't. That implies that like the pararescuers actually bailed on these on the aircraft when they were most likely surrounded, and either the Americans blew it up or the Iranians blew it up, but it doesn't matter. Like they blew up on the ground. It's clear. If you look at the undisrupted soil, that's consistent with like an explosion that might have been an explosion that might have blown it up deliberately rather than a plane that crash landed. In any case, the U.S. account is that two MC-130J Commando 2 Special Operations Transport aircraft landed at a makeshift forward airstrip during the rescue, but became disabled and unable to take off. U.S. forces evacuated personnel and deliberately destroyed the aircraft on the ground to prevent capture. The recovered crew member had evaded Iranian forces for more than 36 hours in mountainous terrain before extractions. Reports and imagery indicate U.S. forces also destroyed at least one MH-6 Little Bird helicopter left behind on the site. President Donald Trump said the pilot was safe and sound. Iranian account says Iranian military linked sources, including Khatam al-Anbiya, command and state-affiliated outlets, claimed the operation resulted in significant U.S. losses under combat conditions. They say the Iranian forces engaged in U.S. aircraft and ground elements, leading to the destruction of multiple assets, including two C-130 MC-130 transport aircraft, two Black Hawk helicopters, drones, including an MQ-9 Reaper and a Hermes 900. Iranian media also reported intense ground clashes in the area during the rescue attempt. Fars news agency said 9 Iranians were killed and 7 wounded in Kokhiliye and Boyar Ahmad province during the overnight operation. State-linked commentary drew comparisons to Operation Eagle Claw. In 1980, the failed U.S. rescue mission in Iran, framing the latest operation as a similar or deeper setback. An advisor to Parliament Speaker Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf described the mission as a historic failure, claiming U.S. forces suffered losses across multiple aircraft types and suggesting the scale of the operation had been downplayed by Washington. Earlier, Tasnim News Agency reported that U.S. forces were bombing areas where the missing pilot might be located, a claim that aligns in part with the U.S. acknowledgement that the aircraft were destroyed at the site, though broader Iranian assertions about intent and losses remain unverified. Images circulating online show the burned out wreckage of what appear to be a U.S. MHC-130 transport aircraft at the forward base in southern Iran. Separate images showed an apparent wreckage of an MH-6 helicopter. Okay. Sorry, just got here, but was the IRGC in the region or was it just police and armed citizens? I think the most sober analysis here is that the IRGC, first of all, they blew up the roads leading into this area. They blew up the roads specifically so they could disrupt transport. Okay, so that was number one. And I saw videos, if you remember, there were a lot of videos of like cars that were trying to get into the area and were just like stuck in a 100 car pileup basically, where they were just like waiting bumper to bumper traffic. They also then created a 3-kilometer cordon around the pilot and eliminated anyone, civilians, military-aged males, as they say, children, whoever the fuck was in the region, in an effort to, preserve the safety of the American asset. The reality of the matter also is that it's clear at the very least that like they could not take out the MQ-9 drones that were like they don't have enough. They don't have the capacity to mobilize enough anti-air systems, at least in this area. Okay, that's just the reality. Or rather, they were too predisposed elsewhere, but they clearly were not able to intercept any of these. They were clearly not able to deny or intercept any of these, planes, and were only able to get to them when they were, when they were staged on the ground. Okay, this still means that they have a hard time staging inside of Iran. They can't create a successful forward operating base. They can't create a FARP without having without meeting significant resistance from the ground forces. By the U.S. description of events, they basically fucked this up with no help from the IRGC. That tells me that if the IRGC is marginally more competent the next time this happens, good chance that all of the Americans die. I think the fact that the IRGC is not competent enough to mobilize in that quadrant says something, though. It says something about their capabilities. Okay? That's just the reality. Because the IRGC is supposed to be everywhere. I know Iran, they have these decentralized systems of defense, and that means that they should be able to mobilize specifically in this region and be able to fight back against, be able to push back against these drones and destroy whatever like defensive corridor that they're trying to create. Because if you can't do that, that means you're also having a hard time combating the terrain. You're also having a hard time getting through in your own terrain where you're supposed to have significant advantages. Okay? Because, like, yes, the American military has superior air power. This is true. Okay? They do. But we know that already. This gives, in my opinion, a lot more confidence in Donald Trump to conduct a special operation in the future. It will most likely be even more devastating than this one. But at the end of the day, the disadvantages on the Iranian side are obviously not knowing exactly where the weapons specialist is, right? They don't know where the weapons specialist is. America does know where the weapons specialist is. But when you have a fuck ton of drones that you can just like send out there and loiter in the vicinity and just like laser people, that obviously disrupts whatever military operation you have. If you can't take out those drones, then that's going to be a consistent problem. They are being baited, Hasan. That's cope. I think that's cope. Okay. I think that's a face saving from Iran. Like the idea that they're baiting the Americans to try to invade through that quadrant is a total cope, because the reality of the matter is, let's be real, this would have been a major point of leverage for the Iranians if they were able to successfully extract the prisoner of war and refuse Americans the combat search and rescue operation, regardless of the unbelievable damage that they were able to do to the mission. Regardless of all the destroyed equipment in the process, the fact of the matter is they didn't get the pilot. Okay, so while the Iranian strike capabilities have not deteriorated, Matthew Petticoat tweeted a good analysis of Iran's internal take on the situation. Can't link it. Yeah, you'd be able to link it if you subscribe to the Piker Broadcasting Service, of course. The IRGC priority will be prepping for the ground invasion, so they'd have minimal assets available for this, which is a lower priority. I wouldn't read too much into it other than what we already know, that their anti-air capabilities greatly diminished. Not securing the WSO is one thing. Why didn't they just torch the area with drones and missiles, though? That's actually a great question. It's one that I'm wondering about as well, but I suspect it's because it was like danger close. Their units were far too close to the area, so they couldn't reliably blow up these assets, because there's civilians that live there, right? Like they don't want to fucking laser, they don't want to send lob missiles internally on Iranian soil and potentially kill a bunch of Iranian civilians. So yeah, spoke with President Trump. He told me the conflict should be over in days, not weeks. But if no deal is made, he's blowing up the whole country with very little off the. In a second, we're still working through this operation. Here, I'll find the Matt Petty tweet. But, this is not like a spectacular W for America in the way that the Americans are presenting it, but it's certainly not something that is looking too great for Iranian capabilities as far as like being able to quickly mobilize in this massive country, in this mountainous region. So that is the reality of the matter. If we're being real about it, Iranians were not capable of mobilizing fast enough and extracting this, mobilizing fast enough and then extracting the pilot so they could take him as a prisoner of war. Anyway, following the desperate attempts, this is the new spokesman for Central Qatar al-Anbiya, says, following the desperate attempts by the American terrorist army aimed at carrying out a rescue operation for the pilot of its downed fighter jet, a number of enemy aircraft entered the airspace of our dear country Iran at the dawn of April 5th, 2026. With God's help and support, thanks to the vigilance and readiness of the Islamic fighters in the armed forces, the use of electronic warfare, modern air defense systems, the implementation of land mosaic defense plan, and the establishment of a military and security cordon, several of these aircraft were targeted, including 2 military transport aircraft of the C-130 type and 2 Black Hawk helicopters, forcing them to make an emergency landing in one of the areas south of Isfahan. This is what I believe, for the record. I think that what ended up happening is they took on fire and they had to do an emergency landing, potentially, and then either they blew it up themselves after bailing, or the Iranians blew it up. I have seen some footage that I can't make out that is of like it looks like it would be a manpad or something that is just like flying around and then just hitting a target on the ground. I don't know if that's actually from the cargo planes that were blowing up, but likely referencing this analysis from Levant Kemal, successful SAR mission could embolden the U.S. to pursue further special ground operations in the coming days, potentially to broader objectives beyond rescue. Yeah, that's what my assessment is too. That's what I think as well. I think that's what is going to happen. Like, I think that all of the troop positioning, like the numbers that they're sending out there, the hardware that they're sending out there, consistent with like a full-blown ground invasion of Iran, but instead is consistent with offering support for special forces operations that they might try to conduct here and there, whether it be like trying to take over a fucking island and then using that as a point of leverage, or whatever the uranium extraction mission that they have, which is unbelievably stupid. Both of these missions are very stupid. Okay, they're very stupid. They will be very difficult to pull off, and most likely will not lead to success. But having said that, I think with the W that they think they receive from this, even if the generals are like, this is going to be incredibly difficult, we can't do that. Please, let's not try anything crazy. The president might have a different opinion. After the completion of the enemy encirclement operation by the heroic fighters of the Islamic Republic of Iran, the cowardly enemy, in order to avoid scandal from the American President Trump and the false prestige of his army, resorted to intensively bombing its downed aircraft, equipment, commanders, and soldiers. The ignorant president, mired in the swamp of war and aggression that he himself started, along with the helpless and cowardly generals in the defeated American terrorist army, have realized that any aggression or ground operation or infiltration into any point of the proud Iran will be met with divine force and the iron fist of the fighters of the armed forces, the heroic Basij, and the brave people with a decisive and humiliating defeat. The scandal that has befallen the beleaguered American president and his defeated army cannot be repaired through hollow statements or media warfare or psychological operations. There is no doubt that all these victories and achievements for dear Iran have come under special divine care, and we are certain that the divine promise of achieving the final victory for the front of truth over falsehood will be fulfilled. And victory is not but from Allah, the exalted in might, the wise. So it's Matthew Petty quote tweeting Hamid Reza Azizi, good analysis of Iran's view, I believe. Okay, does anyone have the link? Anyone that's a subscriber to the Piker Broadcasting Service have the link that I'm looking for? Maybe I'm a dumbass. I am, but I would say the most logical way to look at it is not about a lack of manpower, firepower to defend the region. It could have been them using it as an opportunity to test out their firepower against tech manpower using the rescue efforts, but like there's no way to prove. No. Post with map of what you are explaining. Yeah, details about the rescue offered the U.S. Weapons Systems officer via a U.S. military official. The mountaintop area on the left is where the WSO was hiding. He ejected 5-ish miles northwest of there. The right area is the makeshift landing strip where they landed 2 C-130s and had 4 MH-6. Little Bird flew to that mountaintop area and rescued the WSO and brought him back to the landing strip. And of course, the 2 C-130's nose gears got stuck in the dirt. So after a few hours, they had to bring in 3 AFSOC-8s to fly out the 2 rescued WSO and the 100 or so personnel involved in the op. The op basically cost $300 million because they had to abandon the 2 AFSOC C-130s and the 4 MH-6 Little Birds. Then the U.S. Air Force had to use multiple bombs to blow up all the aircraft they abandoned at the airstrip, and the Iranians shot down 2 Mark 9 Reaper drones. Luckily, the U.S. suffered no casualties, and we had to use multiple bombs and missiles to blow up IRGC vehicles that tried to drive up the mountain, and also those that tried to drive to the airstrip. No, this is 220 kilometers away from the WSO, from where the WSO ejected. There are geolocation discrepancies too. I'm guessing Iran was concerned there were too many eyes on the area and didn't want to expose tunnel entrances. That's why they didn't put too much of a fight. I mean, it could be a number of different reasons, but the reality is Esfahan is not in the northwest. No, the landing area was Esfahan. I don't know how that makes sense, but the plane absolutely blew up in Esfahan. That is true. That is consistent with the Iranians. That's consistent with what they're saying. And I don't know how close to Esfahan. Esfahan province, not the city. Isfahan, sorry. Anyway, does this operation increase or decrease the likelihood of a future U.S. ground operation in Iran? There's no clear consensus yet. I can tell them what their consensus should be if they want to survive. Hamid Reza Azizi reports, how is Iran interpreting the U.S. rescue operation? Reactions inside of Iran have been mixed. State media have framed the operation as a clear U.S. failure, pointing to the reported loss of aircraft and helicopters and questioning whether the second airman was actually rescued. In this narrative, Washington is seen as concealing both material damage and possible casualties. Particular attention is focused on Donald Trump's public messaging. Iranian commentators argue that the absence of any acknowledgement of losses reflects an attempt to construct a narrative of success and distract public attention from the material cost of the operation. At the same time, reports suggest that clashes did occur during the mission. Individuals on the Iranian side, particularly local people involved in search efforts, were reportedly targeted. This complicates the picture and suggests the U.S. operation was not as clean as presented by U.S. officials. Yeah, it's true, right? That's true. Beyond the information war, some Iranian analysts have focused on what the operation reveals about Iran's defenses. The fact that large transport aircrafts and accompanying helicopters are able to penetrate deep into Iranian territory raises concerns about gaps in airspace security. This is true. The depth of penetration reaching areas south of Isfahan is seen as particularly significant. It suggests that under certain conditions, the United States can insert forces far inside of Iran, even if only temporarily. Again, true. Okay, remember that. These are important points of consideration. Okay? This is the reason why America will feel more emboldened. In spite of the losses that they incurred, this is absolutely true. From a military perspective, analysts emphasize that countering such operations requires rapid detection and response. However, the presence of U.S. and possibly Israeli air cover complicates direct engagement and raises the risk of casualties. As a result, some experts are calling for expanded use of drones for surveillance and portable missile systems for targeting. The argument is that more flexible, distributed capabilities are needed to address the vulnerabilities exposed by the operation. This is the Iranian side making this assessment, which is also a correct assessment. There is also strategic concern. Even if the U.S. incurred losses, the successful extraction of an airman could reinforce perceptions of American effectiveness. In a highly curated information environment, that may incentivize further high-risk operations. These could go beyond rescue missions. Some analysts warn that such precedents might increase the likelihood of more ambitious actions, including strikes on sensitive facilities or even attempts to secure high-value assets like the stockpile of the highly enriched uranium inside Iran. At the same time, a counter-argument exists. Some analysts believe that the cost, particularly aircraft losses, may have been acceptable for Washington in this case, but could limit the feasibility of repeating similar operations under more contested conditions. This has fed into a broader debate. Does this operation increase or decrease the likelihood of a future U.S. ground operation in Iran? There is no clear consensus yet. Some Iranian experts frame the episode as a part of a learning process. Despite setbacks, they point out that Iranian forces have previously managed to target advanced U.S. platforms and inflict damage, including during this operation. From this perspective, Iran's failure to capture the airmen is a setback, but also a source of operational lessons that could improve Iran's response in future scenarios. Others urge a more cautious assessment. They note that compared to other cases where the U.S. has rapidly extracted targets with minimal resistance, particularly in Venezuela, this operation took nearly 48 hours and involved significant friction and losses. In that sense, they argue, the episode reinforces the idea that Iran is not an easy operational environment. Any similar mission would likely involve complexity, resistance, and real risk. This is totally up to Donald Trump, okay? Because Donald Trump likes a fast and easy, successful mission, right? Donald Trump loved the Venezuela operation. Very little friction, very little resistance, except for like the Cuban special forces on the ground that were a part of Maduro's personal guard. They were able to basically take out the electricity grid, in and out, boom, 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 right? This was not easy. They lost a fuck ton of assets in the process. They lost a fuck ton of assets in the 48-hour operation. The first day, assets that cost hundreds of millions of dollars. That is an indication that even the fact that the F-15 was destroyed in the process implies that Iran still has significant air defenses in a moment's notice, right? So they do not have the complete air superiority that they claim that they have. If Trump thought it went well, he wouldn't be melting down over social media overnight. He would be gloating. I mean, true. Finally, some commentators draw parallels with Operation Eagle Claw. In Iranian discourse, such comparisons are often used to reinforce the narrative that the U.S. military operations against Iran are repeatedly frustrated. For more ideological voices, these parallels are framed in symbolic or even religious terms, presented as evidence that Iran has historically resisted external intervention and that there is divine support for Iran. Overall, the episode is being interpreted in two ways at once, as both a sign of vulnerability and a demonstration of resilience. That tension will likely shape how Iran adapts its defenses and how it anticipates further U.S. actions. Okay? The thing about the rescue operation where only one pilot got out and the first wave of helicopters got shot up by local boys with 1920s Mausers and the U.S. had to blow up its own planes and helicopters on the ground is that it's going to be presented to Trump as a kick-ass success. And there's enough footage of U.S. Air Force Special Forces blasting Basiji on the ground and drone strikes on military-age males that the sizzle reel Trump gets every day will look cool, but this is going to be spun as a reason for doing the uranium heist, not a lesson against it. That is my suspicion as well. I think Donald Trump is unreliable, and he knows that he hasn't received the military successes. He has to recognize at this point that he's not getting the military success that he wanted out of this process. Strait of Hormuz is still closed, obviously, and Iran is still striking Israel and the Gulf nation states, and even their extraction industry, as well as like American companies in the region. So obviously, he is looking for a W wherever he can, and like the smart thing in this circumstance would be, here is our W. We showed our military dominance. We showed how much we value our service members, our brave, valiant heroes, right? So it's time to retreat. Right? You got a good W here. It's a good point of de-escalation, but that's not going to happen most likely. Let's be fucking real. This is where you cut your losses and you fucking bail, right? It's a good opportunity for face saving. I don't think they're going to do that. I think he's going to look into this and say, sure, we lost some of our assets, but who gives a fuck? Our forces were so dominant for 48 hours. We were able to literally land inside of Iran, operate inside of Iran, and we were able to successfully extract this guy that was like lost in the mountainside, and therefore we can do it again, and we can do it in an even braver and bolder way. And I do worry that this will embolden the Trump the Trump administration into moving in a direction where they'll do the uranium extraction mission, which will be infinitely more complex than this. And will most likely have, considering that it's a military position that they're trying to advance, will require excavators, will require specialists that come along with the special forces, will require creating a FARP in the middle of a contested area, and will require significantly more tools in a much better guarded area. In a much better guarded area where they will have anti-air defense systems, and it will require them to hold a position in a known military position, right? Deep inside of enemy lines. It's very different than being able to figure out where this guy is in the fucking mountain and very quickly creating like a drone cordon that lasers whoever civilian or enemy combatant that comes near it, right? So that's that in that instance, it obviously the situation favors Iranian defenses, right? Breaking news from the Kobeissi letter. Breaking. President Trump's advisor reportedly texting Iran's foreign minister Outrage in an attempt to continue negotiations per Axios. Two sources involved in negotiations said the talks are also taking place through Pakistani, Egyptian, and Turkish mediators. Airdropping excavators and forklifts? Yeah, no, literally. Why aren't you reading the IRGC statement with respect to the extraction, or do you think that they're full of shit? I did read it. And I did explain that they are obviously, just like the United States of America is making this seem like it's a fucking fantastic success, the Iranians are doing the same. Of course, both parties are going to lie and embellish and make their position seem much stronger, okay? Because war is not just being fought on the battleground, it's also being fought in the information space, right? But Levant Kemal also says, he's a Middle East Eye guy. He says a successful search and rescue mission could embolden the U.S. to pursue further special ground operations in the coming days, potentially for broader objectives beyond rescue. Despite Pentagon and CIA risk warnings, the WSO rescue and testing Iran's response speed may push the Trump administration towards missions targeting nuclear inventory, key figure extraction, or underground facility raids. We shall see. Ultimately, here, let's take a look at what Trey Yingst had to say. There was also another moment of HasanAbi vindication where Trey Yingst also revealed on Fox News that Donald Trump told him that they had armed the Kurds, which is what I told you before, because I'd seen the videos in the Kurdish regions of Kurdish militants like straight up assassinating police chiefs and shit like that. And a lot of people yelled at me at the time. This was obviously in the buildup where there was a tremendous amount of state repression from the Iranian side in the protests that were put down, and a lot of people were. A lot of people were killed.
News can report that on Saturday morning, the CIA was able to locate and confirm this U.S. service member in a mountain ridge south of the city of Isfahan, and that is when the appropriate calls were made to relevant parties, including the Secretary of War, the Joint Chiefs Chairman, and the President himself, who ultimately ordered this operation. And within 12 hours, we can report there were U.S. Special Forces on the ground inside of Iran rescuing this U.S. service member.
Yes. Behind enemy lines. Incredible reporting. Yeah. Trey Yingst, live for us in Tel Aviv. Trey, thank you.
Thanks, Trey.
Thank you so much, Trey.
And with that, let's bring in...
News can report that on Saturday...
No worries. That's why it seems unlikely they came under heavy fire at the FARP. The ground conditions were clearly known, and they weren't landing on an airstrip, improvised or otherwise, so it's believable that the heavy C-130s got stopped on soft ground after landing. If under heavy fire, they wouldn't have been able to land on other... they wouldn't have been able to land other fixed wings. No, I don't think they got hit in the air. I think they got resistance from the ground while they were on the ground. So I don't think that, I think they were under fire when they landed. Not necessarily you can land fixed wing on improvised landing strip. You can also conduct free fall insertion with CCT and JTACs in order to assist in landing the fixed wing. Yeah, I don't think they crash landed. Like I think that's bullshit, because if you look at the actual footage, look, guys, no matter how much you want to do propaganda, okay, no matter how much a state wants to do propaganda, whether it's the Iranian state or the American state, at the end of the day, there's things that you can look at with your own two eyes, okay? If the C-130s actually fell, right, or if they were dropped, you would see it in the footage, okay? Not like directly in the footage of like a C-130, falling out of the sky, but you would see it on the soil. Right? There would be an impact site. There would be a crater that is consistent with a